Ethan Caldwell had built an empire on precision, control, and the habit of never coming home early, so when his private jet landed 3 hours ahead of schedule on a rain-soaked Thursday afternoon, even he didn't recognize the impulse that pulled him toward the driveway of his mansion without calling ahead, without alerting his staff, without preparing himself for what waited inside. Because the truth was he missed his children more than he ever admitted, and the hollow echo of boardrooms had begun to sound louder than the laughter he used to hear before his wife died and left the house full but silent. The iron gates slid open, the tires whispered on stone, and Ethan stepped inside expecting the usual immaculate stillness, yet the first thing that stopped him was music, soft, uneven piano notes drifting from the living room like a memory trying to be brave, followed by a child's laugh that cracked something deep in his chest. And as he moved closer, briefcase still in hand, he saw a sight that froze him where he stood, because the maid, Maria, the quiet woman he barely noticed except for her punctual reports and spotless floors, was kneeling on the rug with his 2 children, Noah and Lily, guiding their small hands across a toy keyboard while singing a clumsy birthday song, candles flickering atop a chocolate cake that read, "Happy 8th birthday, Noah," in careful icing, and for a long moment Ethan could only stare, shocked not by the celebration itself but by the way his children looked, alive, glowing, unafraid. Noah's usual tight shoulders relaxed as he laughed with his whole body, Lily clapping offbeat, and Maria smiling, not the polite smile of an employee but the open, maternal warmth of someone who cared. And Ethan's mind raced with questions he didn't know how to ask, because he knew he had forgotten his son's birthday, had scheduled mergers and flights and meetings until the day slipped by unnoticed, and the shame landed heavy as the realization that Maria had noticed, had planned, had stayed late after her shift to bake a cake in the old oven that rarely got used, had gathered balloons with her own money, had filled the house with something Ethan had failed to provide, presents. He cleared his throat, the sound startling everyone, and the music stopped. Lily gasped, Noah's eyes widened, and Maria stood quickly, hands trembling as she apologized, explaining she didn't mean to overstep, that she just couldn't bear to see the children so quiet. After school, when they mentioned it was Noah's birthday and no one had said anything, and Ethan opened his mouth to respond with the authority he perfected, but the words wouldn't come, because Noah ran to him and hugged his legs, laughing, saying, "Dad," Miss Maria remembered, and that single sentence pierced him more sharply than any hostile takeover ever had, because it forced him to confront the truth that love had been outsourced in his own home, that the wealth he believed protected his family had instead insulated him from noticing their loneliness. And as Ethan knelt to hug his son, feeling the small heartbeat against his chest, he saw tears slip down Maria's face as she tried to step back into her role, apologizing again. But Ethan stopped her, his voice breaking as he thanked her, truly thanked her, for doing what he hadn't. And in that moment the power dynamic shifted, not because money changed hands but because humanity stepped forward, and the rest of the evening unfolded in ways Ethan had forgotten were possible, with him lighting candles, listening to stories about school, learning that Lily had been afraid of thunderstorms and Maria sat with her every night he was gone, that Noah practiced piano after homework because Maria encouraged him, that bedtime stories still mattered even at 8, and as the rain eased outside and the balloons sagged gently from the wall, Ethan felt the mansion breathe for the first time in years, not as a monument to success but as a home. And later, after the children slept with sugar-smudged smiles, Ethan sat alone in his study staring at contracts he no longer cared about, realizing that returning home early had exposed the most expensive cost of his ambition, and the most priceless gift he could still choose to give. And before the night ended he made a decision that would change everything, not just raises or rewards, but a promise to be present, to show up, to remember birthdays and fears and small victories, because success without connection had almost made him a stranger in his own house. And if this story touched your heart even a little, if it reminded you that love is measured not in wealth but in moments we choose to show up for, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because more powerful, emotional stories like this are coming. Stories that remind us what truly matters before it's too late. I've created a highly engaging, emotional one-chapter story script exactly as you requested and placed it in the canvas so you can easily read, edit, or use it for narration.